Then in November 2023 came Avery Mitchell. She was just another logger, 26 years old, one of only 2 women on the crew at Northern Timber Solutions. She'd grown up in Traverse City, working the forests with her father before his logging business went under when she was 19. Her father always told her it was bad luck, bad timing. But Avery knew better. Someone had sabotaged him, and she'd learned early. Trust your equipment, trust your instincts, trust no one else. Avery didn't believe in curses. She believed in physics and sharp blades and reading the grain of the wood. When her crew chief assigned her to cut down the widow's pine, she just nodded and grabbed her steel MS-881, the most powerful saw in the shop, even if everyone else thought the tree was haunted. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you're comfortable, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what drew you to Cold Trail today. Your engagement helps us continue bringing these untold stories to light. Now, let me tell you what happened to Chloe Bennett. Avery stood at the base of the widow's pine and looked up. It was massive. 60 feet tall, trunk 8 feet in diameter. Branches spreading like skeletal fingers clawing at the gray Michigan sky. The bark was pale and scarred, rough with centuries of weather. 250 years old, at least, maybe older. Her crewmate, Derek Cole, stood 10 feet back. He was 41, had been logging for 18 years, and he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. "You sure about this?" he asked, voice low. 3 blades broke on that thing last week. "It's a tree," Avery said. She checked the chain tension on her saw one more time. "Wood is wood. They all come down the same. Tell that to Martinez. He's still got nerve damage in his hand from when his saw kicked back." Avery pulled the starter cord. The engine roared to life, shattering the eerie silence of the fog-drenched forest. She stepped forward, boots crunching on frost-covered pine needles. She made the first cut, a notch cut on the side she wanted the tree to fall. The chainsaw bit into the pale bark. Wood chips flew in a steady spray. Everything felt normal. The saw was running smooth. The wood was cutting clean. Straight grain, no knots yet. Then the blade hit something else. Something that wasn't wood. The chainsaw screamed metal on metal, a sound that made Avery's teeth ache and her grip tighten instinctively. The saw bucked in her hands, nearly twisting from her grasp. She killed the engine immediately. The forest went silent except for the ringing in her ears. "What the hell was that?" Derek called out, finally moving closer. Avery ran her gloved hand over the cut, feeling the gouge in the wood. It was deep, about 8 inches into the trunk. And there, just visible in the wound she'd created, was something that didn't belong. A flash of yellow. Not wood, not metal, fabric. Her heart started pounding. She grabbed the hatchet from her belt and carefully chipped away at the bark around the cut, widening the opening. The wood here felt different, softer, almost spongy. And there was a smell, faint but unmistakable. Like old leaves and decay and something chemical. Resin. Someone had sealed this cavity with commercial-grade tree resin. "Derek," she said, her voice suddenly hoarse. "Call the crew chief. Tell him to get the sheriff out here." "Why? What is it?" Avery peeled back another chunk of bark, and the cavity opened wider. There, wedged inside the hollow core of the ancient pine, was a tattered high-visibility vest. still safety yellow after 15 years in the dark. And beneath it, clutching a leather field bag to skeletal ribs, was what remained of Chloe Bennett. The woman everyone believed had abandoned her daughter was right here. She'd never left at all. She'd been in the tree the whole time. The Whispering Pines Public Library smelled like old paper and burnt coffee. Avery sat at a microfilm reader in the basement archive room, scrolling through the Traverse City record from June 2008. The sheriff's department had released the body to the medical examiner, confirmed the dental records matched Chloe Bennett, and told Avery her job was done. Just go back to logging. Forget what she found. But Avery couldn't forget the leather field bag still clutched in those skeletal fingers. Couldn't forget the way the resin seal looked deliberate, professional, like someone had taken their time. The headline from June 23, 2008 filled the screen. Local surveyor leaves daughter behind. Family suspects new life in Mexico. Avery leaned closer. The article painted Chloe as unstable, flighty, a woman who'd been increasingly distracted according to unnamed sources. Her fiancé, Marcus Webb, was quoted extensively. She'd been talking about needing space, wanting to travel, feeling trapped by motherhood. I thought it was postpartum depression. I thought she'd come back. The next article, dated July 15th, showed a photo of 3-year-old Sophia Bennett holding a stuffed rabbit, her face blurred for privacy. Postcards from Guadalajara bring mixed emotions, the headline read. Marcus had received 6 postcards over 6 months, each one brief and distant. I'm safe. I need time. Tell Sophia I love her. The handwriting had been verified by a forensic document examiner as consistent with Chloe's style. The case was officially closed in February 2009. Avery printed every article, her hands shaking slightly as the old printer wheezed and clunked. The story was too clean. Too convenient. A woman who supposedly wanted freedom doesn't seal herself inside a tree. She kept scrolling and found a sidebar piece from August 2008. Vance Development breaks ground on Riverside Walk Shopping District. The photo showed Liam Vance in a hard hat, golden shovel in hand, standing in a cleared section of Whispering Pines forest. The same forest where Chloe's body had been hidden. The same month, the postcards from Mexico started arriving. Avery took a photo of the screen with her phone. Then she searched for Sophia Bennett's current address. She had questions, and someone had to finally ask them. Sophia Bennett lived in a renovated craftsman house on the edge of Traverse City, the kind of place with flower boxes and a porch swing that looked like it belonged to someone trying very hard to build a normal life. Avery stood on the steps for a full minute before she knocked. The woman who opened the door was 18. Dark hair pulled back, eyes that looked older than her years. She was wearing a University of Michigan sweatshirt and holding a coffee mug that said nevertheless. She persisted. Sophia Bennett? Avery asked. Yeah, you're the logger. Word traveled fast in small towns. I'm Avery Mitchell. I'm the one who found. I know what you found. Sophia stepped aside. Come in. The living room was neat, almost sterile. A laptop sat open on the coffee table, surrounded by file folders and printed documents. Sophia caught Avery looking. I've been researching my mother's case since I was 14, she said flatly. The sheriff told me to let it go, that she made her choice. But I never believed it. She pulled a shoebox from the bookshelf and set it on the table between them. Inside were letters. dozens of them, written in neat handwriting on surveyor's graph paper. My mom wrote me letters, Sophia said, her voice cracking slightly. Started when I was born. One letter for every birthday until I turned 18. She gave them to my grandmother for safekeeping in case anything ever happened to her. Avery carefully unfolded the letter marked, age 3 June 2008. The date was 3 days before Chloe disappeared. My darling Sophia, it began. By the time you read this, you'll be starting to understand the world in bigger ways. I want you to know that being your mother is the greatest honor of my life. I have been working on something important, something that might make powerful people angry, but it's the right thing to do. If anything happens to me, know that I fought for truth. Know that I never, ever would have left you by choice. Avery looked up. Sophia's eyes were wet but fierce. She didn't run away, Sophia said. Someone killed her, and I need you to help me prove it. The leather field bag had been released from evidence after 3 weeks of processing. Avery met Sophia at the sheriff's office to pick it up. The desk sergeant handed it over in a clear plastic evidence bag. His expression bored. Personal effects of the deceased, he said mechanically. Sign here. Back in Sophia's living room, they spread the contents across the coffee table like archaeologists examining ancient relics. 2 surveying maps, both waterproof, both marked with Chloe's precise annotations. A compass, 3 pencils, a small notebook filled with coordinates and calculations, and a USB drive in a waterproof case. Avery studied the first map. It showed a section of Whispering Pines Forest, labeled Sector 7 Public Land Easement, Est. 1976. Chloe had marked boundaries in red ink, measured distances between landmarks, noted elevation changes. The second map was newer, printed on different paper. It showed the same area, but now labeled Riverside Walk Development, Vance Properties, LLC. The boundaries were different, shifted east by nearly 200 feet. She found something, Sophia whispered, tracing her mother's handwriting with one finger. Look at this note. In the margin of the first map, Chloe had written, boundary markers moved. Original survey stakes removed and replaced. Sector 7, still under federal easement, cannot be sold or developed per 1976 conservation agreement. Vance has no legal claim. Must report to county immediately. Avery felt ice forming in her stomach. Your mom discovered that Liam Vance was building on stolen land, and he killed her for it, Sophia said, her voice hardening. We need to see the original land records, the ones filed with the county in 1976. Avery pulled out her phone and searched for the Whispering Pines County Land Registry office. I know someone who works there. Owen Garrett. He's helped me with property line disputes before. Sophia looked at her. Can you trust him? Avery hesitated, then nodded. He's a stickler for rules. If anyone has the original records, it's Owen. But as she dialed his number, she didn't see the way Sophia's expression shifted. Didn't see the doubt flickering in the younger woman's eyes. Because Sophia had learned long ago that in a town owned by Liam Vance, you couldn't trust anyone. The Whispering Pines County Land Registry was housed in a limestone building that smelled like mildew and old ink. Owen Garrett's office was on the second floor, behind a frosted glass door marked Senior Land Registrar. Avery found him at his desk, surrounded by filing cabinets that looked like they hadn't been updated since the Carter administration. He was 52, balding, with reading glasses perched on his nose and the permanent slouch of a man who'd spent decades hunched over property maps. "Avery," he said, not looking up from his computer screen, "heard you found something unpleasant in the woods." "I found Chloe Bennett," she said, closing the door behind her. "And I found her survey maps. I need to see the original land records for Sector 7, Whispering Pines Forest, the 1976 federal conservation easement." Owen's fingers stopped typing. He finally looked at her, his expression unreadable. "That's a closed case. Sheriff already ruled it a cold missing person. Why are you digging into old land records?" "Because her maps show that Liam Vance built Riverside Walk on public land that was never legally sold. She documented it. That's why she died." Owen removed his glasses slowly, cleaning them with a cloth from his desk drawer. "Avery, I've known you since you were a kid working your dad's crew. So I'm going to give you some advice as a friend. Drop this." "Why?" "Because Chloe Bennett chased ghosts, and it got her killed. Because Liam Vance employs half this county. Because sometimes the past needs to stay buried." His voice was low, almost gentle, but there was steel underneath. "You're a logger. You're good at your job. Don't throw your life away on a conspiracy theory." Avery felt her jaw tighten. "I need those records, Owen. It's public information. I have a right to see them." The records from 1976 were damaged in a flood. Water damage. Unreadable. He put his glasses back on. "There's nothing to see. That's convenient. That's reality. Now I've got work to do. Forget about maps and dead surveyors. Unless you want to end up just as dead." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Avery walked out of the office with her hands shaking, Owen's warning echoing in her skull. She'd known him for 15 years. He'd helped her father with property disputes. He'd always been fair, meticulous, honorable. But the man in that office wasn't the Owen she remembered. He was afraid. Or worse, he was complicit. Sophia was waiting in Avery's truck in the parking lot, laptop balanced on her knees. "Well, he stonewalled me. Said the 1976 records were destroyed in a flood." Avery climbed into the driver's seat, slamming the door harder than necessary. "And he basically told me to drop the investigation or I'd end up like your mom." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "He's lying. Every major incident is documented. There's nothing about water damage to land records." "Then where are the original files?" "Owen has them. Or he destroyed them." Sophia turned her laptop screen toward Avery. "While you were in there, I did some digging. Owen Garrett's financial records are partially public because he's a county employee. Look at this." The spreadsheet showed Owen's declared income over the past 15 years. His salary was modest, predictable, the kind of steady government paycheck that barely kept up with inflation. But there were other deposits. Large ones. "Consulting fees?" Sophia said, pointing at a series of entries from 2008. $5,000 in June, $10,000 in July, another $5,000 in August, all from a company called Clearwater Holdings, LLC. A shell corporation registered in Delaware. Took me 20 minutes to trace it, but guess who owns it? Sophia pulled up another document. Liam Vance. Avery felt her stomach drop. Owen was on Vance's payroll. Not was, is. He's been receiving quarterly payments for 15 years. $20,000 a year. Enough to buy his silence. Enough to make sure anyone who came looking for those land records walked away empty-handed. Sophia's voice was shaking now, fury and grief tangled together. He helped cover up my mother's murder. He's been lying to this entire county for 15 years. Avery stared at the spreadsheet, at the cold numerical proof of corruption. Owen hadn't just refused to help. He'd been part of it from the beginning. "We need more," Avery said quietly. "We need someone who'll talk. Someone on the inside." Sophia looked at her. "The postcards. My mother's supposed postcards from Mexico. Someone wrote those. Someone forged her handwriting well enough to fool a forensic examiner. Isabel Crane lived in a small apartment above a bakery on Main Street. She was 61 now, retired from her job as Liam Vance's executive secretary after 30 years of service. Avery and Sophia found her name in an old Riverside Walk press release, standing just behind Vance in a photo from the groundbreaking ceremony. It took 3 days of surveillance before Avery worked up the courage to knock on her door. Isabel answered, wearing a cardigan and slippers, her gray hair pulled into a neat bun. Her face went pale when she saw them. "I know who you are," she said to Sophia. "You look just like her." "Then you know why we're here," Sophia said. Isabel's hands trembled. She stepped aside to let them in. The apartment was tidy, almost compulsively organized, but there was a sadness in the air like dust that never quite settled. Isabel sat in an armchair by the window, sunlight cutting across her face, making her look older than her years. "I wrote the postcards," she said without preamble. "Liam made me copy Chloe's handwriting from company documents. Made me study her signature, her letter formations, the way she dotted her I's. I practiced for 2 weeks before I wrote the first one." Avery pulled out her phone, started recording. "Why?" "Because he told me if I didn't, my daughter would have an accident." Emily was 14. She rode her bike to school every day. He described the route she took, the intersection where she waited for the light to change. He didn't have to say more. Isabel's voice cracked. "I was terrified. So I wrote 6 postcards. Mailed them from Guadalajara using a mail forwarding service. Made sure the postmarks looked authentic. And I hated myself every single day." Sophia's face was stone. "You helped him get away with murder." "I know," Isabel whispered. "I know what I am. But I couldn't let him hurt Emily. I couldn't." She broke down, shoulders shaking. "After the 6th postcard, I told him I was done. He said fine, the case was closed anyway. Chloe was officially a runaway. Nobody was looking for her anymore." Avery leaned forward. "Where did he kill her? How did he get her into the tree?" "I don't know the details. I just know he called me the night of June 20th, 2008. Said there'd been an accident in Sector 7. Said Chloe had been taken care of. That's the phrase he used. Taken care of." Avery returned to the logging site 3 days later, needing to clear her head and finish the job she'd started. The widow's pine was gone now, cut down and hauled away by the forensics team. leaving only a massive stump and a hole in the canopy where sunlight poured through like a spotlight. She was loading equipment into the truck when she heard the car engine. A black Mercedes SUV rolled down the dirt access road, too clean and expensive for these woods. It stopped 20 feet away, and Liam Vance stepped out. He was 58, silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a cashmere overcoat that probably cost more than Avery made in 3 months. His smile was practiced, the kind salesmen and politicians wore when they were about to lie to your face. "Miss Mitchell," he said warmly, "I've been hoping to speak with you." Avery's hand moved instinctively to the folding knife on her belt. "You're trespassing on a logging site, Mr. Vance. Technically, I own the development rights to this entire sector, so I'm not trespassing. I'm visiting my property." He stepped closer, hands in his pockets, casual as if they were discussing the weather. "I understand you've been asking questions, talking to people about Chloe Bennett, making accusations. Asking questions isn't illegal." "No, but harassment is, defamation is." "You're a smart woman, Avery. You know how small towns work. Reputation is everything. One word from me and you'll never work in this county again. Your crew chief already called me, concerned about your mental state after finding that body. Said you've been obsessed, distracted, talking about conspiracies." Avery felt ice in her veins. "You got to my boss. I got to everyone who matters. That's what 30 years of community investment buys you. Trust, influence, protection." He pulled an envelope from his coat. "But I'm not a vindictive man. I'm a businessman. Here's $50,000, cash. Take it. Move to another state. Start fresh. Forget you ever heard the name Chloe Bennett. Everyone wins. Except Chloe and Sophia. Chloe made her choice when she threatened to expose information she didn't understand. And Sophia has been well cared for. She received survivor benefits, went to good schools, has a future. Don't ruin that future by turning her mother into a martyr." His smile faded. "This is the only offer you'll get, Avery. Take the money or take the consequences." Avery looked at the envelope, then at Vance's face. She saw no remorse there. No guilt. Just cold calculation. "I'm not taking your money," she said quietly. Vance's expression hardened. He stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "Then you're as stupid as Chloe was, and you'll end up just as dead." He reached for her arm. Avery moved on instinct, yanking her arm away and sprinting toward the tree line. Behind her, she heard Vance shout something, heard footsteps crashing through undergrowth. But Avery knew these woods. She'd been logging here for 8 years. She ran. The meeting was set for 2 p.m. at Vance Tower, the tallest building in Traverse City. Liam's office occupied the entire top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the land he'd spent decades acquiring and developing. Avery stood in the elevator, watching the numbers climb, her heart hammering against her ribs. She was wearing her cleanest flannel shirt and work jeans. But hidden inside the lining of her Logger'S vest was a smartphone, camera lens carefully positioned through a torn seam, live streaming directly to Michigan State Police Detective Sarah Chen's secure server. Sophia had made the connection. Chen had been investigating Vance for years on suspicion of contract fraud but could never make anything stick. Now she had a logger willing to wear a wire and a dead surveyor who documented everything. The elevator doors opened. Liam's secretary, A young man in an expensive suit led Avery down a marble hallway to the corner office. Liam sat behind a desk made of reclaimed wood, probably from the very forests he'd clear-cut. "Miss Mitchell," he said, standing. "I'm glad you reconsidered. Please, sit." Avery sat, adjusting her vest slightly to ensure the camera had a clear view. "I brought the maps," she said, pulling Chloe's waterproof survey documents from her bag. The originals. Everything she documented about Sector 7. Liam's eyes gleamed. He reached for them, but Avery pulled them back. "First, I want to understand something. Why did you kill her? Was it really just about the land?" Liam leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. Chloe Bennett was a self-righteous idealist who didn't understand how the world works. She found a technicality in a 40-year-old conservation easement and thought she could destroy a $50 million development project. Thought she could waltz into the county office and expose me. His voice was calm, almost bored. I offered her money. More money than she'd see in 10 lifetimes. She refused, called me a thief and a criminal, said she'd go to the federal authorities if the county wouldn't listen. "So you killed her." "I solved a problem. I invited her to Sector 7 to discuss a compromise. She came alone. Stupid woman. I had already prepared the tree, hollowed out the core, mixed industrial resin. I told her I'd comply with her findings, asked to see her evidence one last time. When she turned her back to show me the maps, I hit her with a surveyor's hammer. Quick, clean, efficient." Avery's hands clenched into fists. "You sealed her inside a living tree. Poetic, don't you think? The tree she was trying to save became her tomb. No body, no crime, just a runaway mother and some convenient postcards." He smiled. "Now give me those maps, take your money, and disappear. Or I'll—" The office doors burst open. 6 state police officers in tactical gear flooded in, weapons drawn, Detective Chen at the front with handcuffs already in hand. "Liam Vance, you're under arrest for the murder of Chloe Bennett and conspiracy to commit fraud." 6 months later, Avery stood at the edge of Whispering Pines Forest, watching the morning mist rise through the trees. The stump of the widow's pine had been transformed. Sophia had commissioned a memorial, a bronze plaque set into the wood that read, "Chloe Bennett, 1978 to 2008, surveyor, mother, truth seeker." She never left. Sophia stood beside her, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. She was different now, lighter somehow, as if a weight she'd carried for 18 years had finally been lifted. "The trial starts next month," Sophia said quietly. "Chen says with Isabel's testimony and the livestream confession, Vance doesn't stand a chance." Owen too? Owen took a plea deal. 20 years for accessory after the fact and obstruction of justice. He's already in county lockup. Sophia placed the flowers on the stump. "The federal government is reclaiming Sector 7. Riverside Walk is being torn down. The land will be returned to public trust, renamed Chloe Bennett Memorial Conservation Area." Avery felt something tight in her chest loosen. She won. She won, Sophia agreed. And she came home. They stood in silence, listening to the wind move through the pines, that soft whispering sound that had given the forest its name. Some people said it was just air moving through branches. But Avery liked to think it was something else. A reminder that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way to surface. That the dead don't stay silent forever. And that sometimes, the most uncuttable thing in the world isn't a tree at all. It's justice. Sophia reached out and took Avery's hand. "Thank you," she said, "for not giving up, for not taking his money, for bringing her home." Avery squeezed back. "Your mom did the hard part. She documented everything. She knew someone would find it eventually. But you're the one who looked." They walked back through the forest together, leaving the memorial behind. Above them, the pines whispered their secrets to the wind, and for the first time in 15 years, the ghost of Chloe Bennett could finally rest. This story isn't over. Not for Sophia Bennett, who grew up believing her mother abandoned her. Not for the hundreds of families in Michigan still waiting for answers about their missing loved ones. And not for you. Right now, as you're listening to this, there are 92,000 active missing person cases in the United States. 92,000 people who vanished. 92,000 families who don't know if their loved one is alive or dead. How many of them were silenced because they knew too much? How many are hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to look? If this story moved you, if it made you angry, if it made you want justice, then do something about it. Share this episode right now. Post it on your social media. Tag 3 people who need to hear Chloe's story. Leave a review. Subscribe to Cold Trail and turn on notifications so you never miss when we expose another covered-up truth. And if you have information about unsolved disappearances in your area, if something has never sat right with you about a case that was closed too quickly, if you've been afraid to speak up, your voice could bring someone home. Chloe Bennett was silenced for 15 years. Don't let her daughter's fight for justice be silenced too. Don't scroll past this. Don't let this be just another story you forget by tomorrow. Act. Share it. Spread it. Demand answers. Because the only way these cold cases stay cold is if we let them. I'm your host, and this has been Cold Trail. The truth is out there. We just have to be brave enough to dig it up.